Hi all, we are discussing Saussure's nature of linguistic sign. That is the topic that we are discussing today. So, Ferdinand De Saussure is widely regarded as the father of modern linguistics. The nature of linguistic sign is extracted from his work Course in General Linguistics. It is a summary of the lectures at the University of Geneva from 1906 to 1911. Saussure examines the relationship between speech and the evaluation of language and investigates language as a structured system of signs. So, really, summarizing Saussure's nature of the linguistic sign is pretty difficult because it is very lengthy. So here I will be just pointing the main points, the most relevant ideas that is there in the essay. Okay. So first of all, he has given the definition of linguistics. As far as Ferdinand De Saussure is concerned, he defines linguistics as the study of language and as the study of the manifestation of human speech. He says that linguistics is also concerned with the history of languages and with the social or cultural influences that shape the development of language. It includes such fields as phonology, phonetics, morphology, semantics, and pragmatics and the language acquisition. He speaks about sign, signification, and signs. So, Saussure says that for some people, a language is a list of terms corresponding to a list of things. For example, in Latin, would be represented as arbor. So, this conception is open to a number of objections. It assumes that ideas already exist independently for words. It doesn't clarify whether the name is vocal or psychological, whether it has a vocal entity or a psychological entity. Thus, a linguistic sign is not a link between a thing and a sound, but between a concept and a sound pattern. The sound pattern is the hearer's or the listener's psychological impression of a sound as given to him by the evidence of his senses. So, this sound pattern may be called as material element only. It is the representation of our sensory impressions. The sound pattern may be thus be distinguished from the other element associated with it in a linguistic sign. So, this other element is generally of a more absent kind, the concept. The psychological nature of our sound pattern becomes clear when we consider our own linguistic activity without moving lips or tongue. Speaking of the sound and syllables of a word, a need to give rise to any understanding provided and always bears in mind that this refers to the sound pattern. That is concept. So, according to Saussure, the linguistic sign is a two-sided psychological entity. These two elements are intimately linked and bit with each other. Thus, in our terminology, a sign is the combination of a concept and a sound pattern. But in current usage, the term sign generally refers to the sound pattern alone. For example, the word arbor. It is forgotten that it carries with it the concept tree. So, the sensory part of the term implies a reference to the whole. So, the link between signal and signification is the combination in which a signal is associated with a signification. It can be expressed simply as the linguistics is arbitrary. By arbitrary, the author means that it is unmotivated, that is arbitrary in that it actually has no natural connection with the signified. So Saussure draws a distinction between language, that is lang, and the activity of speaking as parole. So speaking is an activity of the individual. Language is the social manifestation of speech. Language is a system of signs that evolves from the activity of speech. That is what he says. So language is really a link between thought and sound, and is a means for thought to be expressed as sound. Thought have to become ordered and sounds have to be articulated for language to occur. So Saussure says that language is really a borderline between thought and sound, where thought and sound combine to provide communication. Spoken language include the communication of concepts by means of sound images from the speaker to the listener. Language is a product of speaker's communication of signs to the listener. So Saussure says that a linguistic sign is a communication of a concept and a sound image. The concept is what is signified and the sound image is a signifier. So the combination of the signifier and signified is arbitrary, that is, any sound image can conceiving be used to signify a particular concept. Thus, according to Saussure, the relation between a signifier and the signified is arbitrary. That means there is no direct connection between the shape and the concept. That is what he tries to prove. For instance, there is no reason why the letter CAT or the sound of the phonemes produces exactly the image of the small domesticated animal with four legs and a tail in our minds. It's a result of convention. Speakers of the same language group have agreed and learned that these letters or sounds evoke a certain image. So then Saussure defines semiology as a study of science and says that linguistics is a part of semiology. He maintains that written language exists for the purpose of representing spoken language. A written word is an image of a vocal sign. That is what he says. Then Saussure argues that language is a structural system of arbitrary signs. On the other hand, symbols are not arbitrary. A symbol may be signifier, but in contrast to a sign, a symbol never completely arbitrary. A symbol has a rational relationship with what is signified. And as you read in the end of this part, two objects may be mentioned which might be brought against the principle of that linguistic signs are arbitrary. They are onomatopoeia words might be held to show that a choice of signal is not always arbitrary. It is only approximate imitation, already partly conventionalized of certain sounds. So this is evident when it is compared to French dogs oua oua and German dogs ow wow. That is the first one. Second one, interjections which falls much to the same logic as onomatopoeia and as demonstrated by companies of the same expression in two languages. So to conclude, Saussure shows that the meaning or signification of signs is established by their relation to each other. The relation of signs to each other forms the structure of the language. Synchronic reality is found in the structure of language at a given point in time. Diachronic reality is found in changes of language over a period of time. Okay, so to conclude with the words of Maya Maser, Ferdinand De Saussure, course in general linguistics is the first step and a milestone in modern linguistics. Okay, that's all about it. Thank you. Hope everybody understood it.